I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam. You crazy little alien, you. You're my favorite, you know. And thank you, listener. You're my favorite, too, for tuning into this episode of the Oracles with James Tyson. It's me, James, and today I'm bringing you another person here from Cascadia, and that is somebody in the Pacific Northwest. She is a medical intuitive, an author, a Reiki master, and teacher, and works with an extensive team of light beings from all the realms that include Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, Nostradamus, some elemental beings, a couple of angels, and a myriad of beings that she connects with to help other people. Mari fully embodied and accesses her higher self and is a psychic as well as a mental and trance medium. She uses the human energetic field to understand the issues in our bodies, mind, and spirit, and teaches classes on mediumship, embodiment, healing, spirit guides, and way more. And if you go to her website, maribeckman.com, that's Mari is M-A-R-I, maribeckman.com, you'll see a lot of the things she has to offer. Today, we're not going to get really into the medical intuitivism, which is one of the other words I think I invent, being a medical intuitive. We'll touch on that. We move in and out of what she did as a child, when she started seeing and feeling and just knowing things growing up, and how she developed into who she is today, and what her divination is, or what her path is, what her goal is, why is she here? And then we start talking about why other people of a higher vibration may be here. What is their purpose? And why, since about 2012, are more and more people, quote unquote, awakening? What is going on? Why do we have so many indigos and star children and star beings? And what is happening and why? What is coming in the future that we need all these higher vibration people? And what's going to happen to the lower vibration people? And of course, I throw out from everything from being food for aliens to great disasters, and we have a bit of a talk about that, and bless her, she argues with me, so it was really cool. We talk about things that she has seen. We don't go right into the detail, but things that are coming and why we need to be prepared for these kind of things. Now, Mari's going to be at the Galactic Fair in Lacey, Washington, March 14th and 15th. And this show comes out on the 27th of February, 2020. So if you're finding it on the web, floating around somewhere, don't worry about the dates that I'm flying out here. The other date is the 29th of February. Mari's going to be on a radio show out of Seattle, Washington on the station KKNW, 1150 AM. If you're interested in hearing a little bit more about who she is after this interview, you can always search that. If you're not in a position to listen to her live at 10 a.m. Pacific here on the Pacific Northwest, obviously, at KKNW, 1150 a.m., you can find that show after on the internet and listen to it then. So she'll be interviewed there. And then she and I are going to be at the Oregon Ghost Conference on the 27th, or the weekend of the 27th, in Seaside, Oregon. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you like ghosts and you like psychics and you like all the woo-woo stuff that goes along with it, please drop by to the Oregon Ghost Conference. Google that, Oregon Ghost Conference 2020, Seaside, Oregon. It's been there every year. I've been trying to get, I think I missed last year, but I've been down and I'm speaking at them sometimes. I'm not speaking this year. Mari Beckman is speaking at the event, as well as a number of other really cool people. And I'm going to have somebody on from the Oregon Ghost Conference in the next week or two to tell you a little bit more about that. But today, Mari Beckman, very, very cool lady. If you know Mari, you'll know that she's very connected to the other side. Will you say the other side, or is it interdimensional? We'll talk about that too. But we'll find out what's going on. Why are so many people awakening? What is it that's coming? And what does it mean to be a higher vibration or an empath? So it's kind of a dig into what all this, and I call it woo-woo, what is going on and why all of a sudden we are connecting more and more with each other. So let's bring Mari in now. Mari, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you on. And you're a Cascadian. You're up in the Pacific Northwest here with me, so you can understand what goes on this time of year with our wonderful rainforest weather.
Absolutely. It finally sort of quit raining. We had rain for more than 30 days in Tacoma. And this year I actually said, I'm sick of it. And a lot of people got flooded. Lots and lots of people had trouble, and just the other day it blew so hard, all kinds of stuff came down. And I think we're just really ready for spring. Absolutely over here. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just the way we're just getting it's cleansing. We're just getting a rinse and a blow dry.
Right.
Getting us all ready for a nice long fire season.
I hope not. Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I rode down to Sturgis in 2017, Sturgis, South Dakota, and I went straight down to Portland to visit a friend of mine in the North Portland area, St. John's area, who is metaphysical. She's one of us woo-woo people. And I hopped on a motorcycle and I drove down, and it was smoky and about 100 degrees the whole trip. And she was the first human being I spoke to. So when I spoke, my voice was way up here because my vocal cords had shrunk from breathing in the smoke and the hot air. And I thought, oh, great. And then I turned east from Portland through the gorge, which was, again, really hot along the Columbia River there. And my gosh, but that was a really, really interesting year, 2017. And even on the way back, it was crazy through Montana and all the way when you started hitting just walls of smoke. You could see it in the horizon. It was crazy. So let's hope we don't have another one of those. I don't think there's anything left to burn.
Right. It certainly could be that way. I sure feel bad for all the people that lost their homes and businesses. There was so much of that. So hopefully this year will be a little bit different because of all the rain.
Fingers crossed. Yep. So here you are being this wonderful psychic medium and channeler and connected, and things keep blossoming in your life. When did this all first start for you?
Gosh, well, I think like a lot of people, I remember knowing things as a kid. I would know things that would make people kind of surprised. And of course, as a kid, you don't know any different. You think everybody sort of knows that. And I started being surprised when everybody wasn't as concerned with animals and earthworms and trees and everything as I was. I remember being a little kid. I don't even remember what grade it was, but I got everybody to agree that we didn't just need food, water, and shelter, but we needed love too. I mean, what a little weirdo, I was an outcast from the word go, and so I guess it was maybe, I can't remember. I've been doing what I've been doing for about 17, 18 years, maybe. I remember 2012 was a big year for a lot of people. It was for me too.
Me too.
And
yeah.
I just learned stuff all the time. I learned something huge today, which I may or may not tell you guys because it was so weird. But I just, some years you think, you know what, I kind of got this figured out. But these days, oh no, I have nothing figured out. And I'm excited about every day as to what I'm going to learn. And right now we're in that personality influx. And so my personality needs a lot of honing. And I didn't miss anything. Sure enough, I got a good one. And, I did learn a big lesson last week. And so, we've been in and out of the, heart influx and brain and all the different stuff. And then here we were on the personality one. So I forget what comes up next, but if people don't know what I'm talking about, follow Jason Estes. He's pretty awesome young man on Facebook, plus a lot of other places. And he kind of talks about what to expect and on the dates to expect it. So I think that's phenomenal.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
And very helpful because I think a lot of people just want to know, why are we feeling this way? But, your question was, how did I find out that, this was me? Is that I've always had a certain amount of empath skills, but I'm a seer like you wouldn't believe. I can see the size of your guide's underwear, that kind of thing is kind of like my main skill. But I have all those clairs that everybody's got. And I really love to do healing. That's probably my favorite because you can really be able to help people. You can help people with all the little tricks that I know over the years that I've learned or I've come up with myself. And I speak with my guides every day, and I can see guides, angels, beings of light, beloved people's deceased and their ancestors, and talk to the higher self and communicate with aspects of a person. And I'm an embodied person, so I know who my aspects are. And that's kind of how it all happened. I really like it. Gosh, I don't know what my favorite thing is. I guess it would have to be healing, but I do a little bit of all of it because, we have to do that thing that we all like to do called eat. So I do a little bit of all of it, I guess.
You said at the beginning when you were a child, you just knew things. Can you give me a couple of examples of what you knew that maybe other people around you didn't? Were you actually seeing things then, or were you hearing them? Which Claire was kicking in when you were a little one?
I remember being a pretty little kid, like maybe 5 or 6, and my brother saying, "You don't know what I got you for Christmas." And I said, "A beanbag chair." And that's when beanbag chairs were first out, way back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And that was right on. So stuff would just float through my head. So I would just kind of know what people were thinking and feeling mostly. It's pretty easy for a little kid, I think, to pick up on emotions. So I would call people out on their emotions all the time, not even knowing. I know my mom or somebody close to me would have a certain look on their face and say a certain thing. And I would say, "But why are you so angry under that?" That kind of thing. So, just the regular little weirdo. And gosh, I don't know. I had quite a few skills, but and I was always really tuned into how people were feeling or what was going down when I was going through school, too. I had a really hard time in school because I pick up on a lot of people's how they're feeling,
Yeah.
The
typical empath thing where you just absorb everybody else's feelings and energy around you.
Yeah, and then I always had the thing but I could never figure out how I was feeling. I could never figure out my own stuff.
I think that's it. And I thinking back in hindsight, I look back at my life thinking, well, how come I didn't see that? If I'm this intuitive or I feel other people's stuff, how come I'm not doing it myself? And I remember being trained to identify stress in people. Mm-hmm. And I went through this huge stress period back when I was first in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, stuck in a little town way up north, and I was stressed out. But I couldn't identify it in myself. I had it pointed out to me, and I went through all the symptoms of high stress, and I went, "Oh, crap. Why didn't I see that myself?" And the guy said, "Well, because that's not how it works. You usually have to get somebody else pointed out." And it's the same thing when you were that glow-in-the-dark empath as a kid. You may understand seeing it in somebody else, but you can't. Well, like maybe not as a kid, but when it affects you, it's different. It's like we're not supposed to know that part, but we can know everything about everyone else.
Exactly. And even though I do really, really trust my own guidance and I trust my higher self, I still, if I have a question, I'll go to one of my trusted friends that do the same work. I don't want to be my own medium. I don't want to miss anything. It's just like I want to make sure that the space is clear to make sure that I don't miss anything on somebody else. Even though, of course, we're human, we're always, we could make a mistake. When people come to me and say, I have this rash, I want to say, you really don't need me. You need someone with a diploma, like a doctor. So I'm very clear as to what I can do and what I can't. I think we have to be.
The healing side of you, is that something that's come on in the last 2 years?
No.
You've had it for a while?
I have. That was my first skill to learn, which was Reiki. I learned to do that from a wonderful person who now lives in New York, Maureen Mercier. And she was my Reiki master. And as I was learning it, I began to really open up. That was in like 94 or something like that, 95. I can't remember. Whatever that many years ago it was. I can't remember. Anyway, I noticed that my skills were opening up, and I called her and said, "Am I having, this awesome experience, what is this? Am I really just opening up, or am I having an amazing Reiki experience? She says, yeah, you really are. And that now that I teach Reiki, I tell people, don't be surprised. You'll be opening up and you're changing. And it's one of the biggest gifts I think you can give yourself is to learn how to do Reiki. It plugs you right into the Reiki board, and pretty soon you have a Reiki guide and you're able to do all kinds of stuff. And then I learned a couple other skills, hands-on healing skills, and then I developed my own. And by that point, I was already speaking with my guides, and they basically said, don't go out and learn anymore. We're going to teach you. So some of the stuff I do, I've learned, but a lot of it they've showed me. And people will get, when people do a healing with me, basically their guides, my guides, their higher self and mine, we all kind of chat. And we remove things that just don't work for them anymore, and then bring in what they need to have to feel better. And then I teach them how to do it themselves, because I don't want to leave them without some way to help themselves. I think that's really important.
Oh, that's fascinating. I took Reiki, and because and the instructor that was teaching me asked if I wanted to actually teach it myself. And she said, well, then you don't need level 3. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And after level 1, she said, I don't need level 2. And I said, why not? And she says, because you're beyond, it'd be just a waste. It's a waste of time, because you've already got that. And I used it once on a human being and saw all sorts of things. Like dead people were coming through wanting to tell her stories, and I'm thinking, I'm just looking for something that hurts. And it was a test. You wanted to say, okay, see if you can find where I got sores, and like a sore leg or sore shoulder, and I got them. Mm-hmm. But while I'm doing it, all of a sudden I've got a dead guy coming through, and I've got this giant being standing beside her, and I went, you know what, I'm good. I think my Reiki's done, and now I just use it on my dog, because he's got an appliance in his knee, and he's got a cruciate ligament, and he's arthritic. Mm-hmm. So I put my hands on him, and it that's it. I don't want to. I'm not sure how to control all what opened up, so I just took a step back, and maybe it's not. That's not good. That wasn't my path at that time. So who knows? I may fall back into it. I may focus a little bit more on that. But I was interested in you saying you get a Reiki guide. I had never heard that before. Yeah.
You know what I found out, though? And you know what? Maybe there are Reiki people out in your audience that can tell me, because I've never asked this question, because once I saw this, I kind of connected it up, and there you go. But I had no idea that I had a main Reiki guide, because they always tell you get Reiki guides, and you can hear them. I can hear them in my head, can see them. I figured out that my Reiki guide, who is Gilgamesh, he's a Sumerian warrior. He was actually a real person. That is my guide. That was a guide that I received at the time of my Reiki attunement. And then all of the students that come after me, he is their guide too. So whether that is true of everybody, I don't know, but it was true of us. And so I'll just bet that anytime you need that healing skill, you're going to just bring it on full force, because what I have found with the skill of healing is that all guides will step forward. You can talk to all kinds of people when you're doing those healings, and they will help you figure out stuff in all levels of the body. So if you ever need to have it again, it'll be right there for you. So don't worry about that.
Oh, that's fascinating. Then I'm interested in maybe now going out and maybe turning that back on and seeing what happens, just to check in. And the guide side of things, it's fascinating that you actually see and hear them, because I can't. I'm not that in tuned yet. And Reiki for me, and I've been told this by other woo-woo people, psychics, that it's basically comes down to the intent. If my intention is to bring healing energy from the universe down through me, and how I focus it, I bring it down through my crown chakra into my heart chakra on an inhale, exhale it out my left hand, and wherever that's touching. And they said if that's the intent, then it will happen. And that's. So I don't do, like the 7 little turns of the hand and all the process. It's literally a focus, a calming down, a couple of deep breaths, and then I push it through. And my dog just kind of flops right over when I do that.
Oh, sure. They love it, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
He'll lay down, he'll look at me, he'll give me these great big eyes. He's a 120-pound shepherd cross. And then he just comes over and he licks my hand that's touching him. Mm-hmm. And then he relaxes. But it coming down to it being as long as your intent is pure to help that person, you become that medium, that conduit between source energy or whatever that is and the person you're helping. So in your case, you're really connected with all the little spidery connections. Like you say, the Reiki grid comes through you. So you pull in from multiple locations.
I do. And basically, they just told me, just do your own thing after I learned to do some of the other stuff. So I have quantum touch and Reiki and I forget what else. I've learned some other things, but basically now I just do my own thing, and I don't touch people. I do it by distance, and even if I'm in the room with you, I'm always across from a person, and the healing is happening then. So I just look inside a person's body. I can see all the levels and all the bodies, the higher bodies, and that sort of thing. Look in the brain. You can see what's going on in all the organs and muscles, that sort of thing. So basically, it's just like seeing through the body. And so, I'm not a diagnoser. That's not my job. And I certainly don't prescribe anything because that's not what we do as healers. But I can identify where there's an issue, and then I can use energy to adjust. And I adjust through their guides and mine.
That's fascinating. That's when I go get Reiki done by a local lady. She does it too. She doesn't really. Well, she doesn't physically touch. She comes close. Like she'll come maybe about a foot or two from you, above you, depending on what it is I'm getting adjusted. But the rest of the time, she can just sit back. Can you? Now you do. When you say you don't have to be in the room. Could you do this remotely too?
Yes, because what I was going to say earlier is Reiki 1 is about being plugged into the system. And generally the students then go home and they work on themselves pretty much. In Reiki 2, you get the symbols, and then you're able to work on others. Or Reiki 3, you can become a teacher. So then you get other symbols. So now, of course, in 2020, you can just simply say, this is my humble opinion, though. I mean, anybody can disagree with me on this, but I believe that any type of modality can just come right on up in 12D. So if I say my pendulum's 12D, it's going to be, because it's my intention to pick up on any awesome vibration that I need to use or awesome frequency, and my pendulum's just going to pick it up. That's kind of my only tool at this moment, and it's really for other people because my pendulum does a lot of crazy stuff. And I just have people watch that because you can measure all kinds of frequency with that and measure, what's going on in their body. Actually, you can measure just about anything with it because it's been attached to me for all the years I've been practicing. So, but as far as Reiki goes, that's kind of what you do, but now you can say these days, I believe Reiki's a little bit higher up there now. And of course you have all the different types like the Karuna and the Holy Fire and the Dragon and the Laser and all kinds of different Reiki types.
Yeah. So when you say nowadays, what has changed?
A lot of things have actually changed. Earth was kind of in a lower frequency. Everything was pretty much 3D, right? And Earth is waking up to 5D and above. 5D in heart for sure. And as we wake up as human beings, this energy is coming in from the sun, coming out of the earth, and the frequency is coming through us, I guess. There's so much more to say about that, but that's just in a nutshell. So we are just feeling all these incredibly interesting new frequencies coming into earth, and we are just changing. We're absolutely changing it into a new human. Does that make sense?
It does.
So people are,
but my listener might be a little thrown back. So we started off. This is, let's go back to that date, that 2012. Let's put us in 2010. What would you say? Were we 4D, 3D back then?
I think we've been 3D for an awfully long time. Let's just put it this way.
What does the D stand for?
Dimension.
Dimension.
Or density. One way to understand this really well, I think, and I try to do just really simple things because that's how my brain works, is that we notice now that our memory isn't like it used to be. Have you noticed that?
I can't remember.
Yes. And the time is running differently, right? And maybe we're seeing some shimmery movements, and maybe we now know that maybe what's above us is a little bit different than we thought. And maybe now we know that the news maybe is a little different, and that we know that some of the things we've believed in all our lives maybe not be exactly what purported to be. So we're beginning to understand some things are not the way they were shown to be.
Yeah.
And so as this energy comes into Earth, many people all over the Earth are waking up in certain areas. So us starseed folk, or blue ray beings, depending on who you are, there's gatekeepers and grid people and all kinds of people seated all over the Earth. And basically we are just little batteries or lightning rods or fence posts, whatever you want to call us. Here we are all over the Earth, and we're just waking up, bing, 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 going through 4D, 5D and beyond. And we just spread it, if I understand. And I understand that there may or may not have already been, for some of us, a culmination or flashpoint. Some people believe there's going to be a big overall flashpoint. Some people believe that there's going to be a flashpoint. We'll go out for a couple days and come back, and it'll be a different Earth. You know what? I don't know. My belief changes all the time. I don't really know how this is all going to go down. And at this point right now in 2020, I don't care. I just want to find ways to physically feel better, find great stuff to eat to feel better, help people feel better, and just have a lot of fun, because that's mostly what the guides are saying is, good grief, can you earthlings just have a little more fun, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and you got to remember who we are. You and I, we interview a lot of people from this community and kind of the existential side of things. And I interview people who deal with UFOs and people who like seeing ghosts and the more metaphysical of us. And since 2014, things have changed in our conversations. In 2014, we talked about a thing. We actually had a radio show every second Sunday called The Shift. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the shift that was coming. And we described, in 2014, we described how there were going to be politicians placed in locations around the planet that were going to bring their countries to, separate, almost bring them to a point of civil war, to throw things off. Our use of fossil fuels, we were it was going to explode. We were going to start using it more. We were basically attacking the earth a lot more. And that was going to, we were getting ourselves into trouble. It was going to culminate in severe weather. We were going to get geological upheaval, like earthquakes and volcanic activity, which would culminate in a something catastrophic that was going to shut everything down. And we'd have to start again. And now we're getting up to this time, and I'm talking to people who have actually got dates for this, and it's a lot closer than we had thought. And it's like, crap. And you get three of these people talking to me, but individually, but they all say the same thing, and they're all from different parts of the planet. And they say, and I said, well, I just heard that from someone else. And they said, because I got that from my guides.
Right.
Said, ooh, crap. So you guys haven't got together and are fooling me. No, this is all information coming from completely different sources, but it's all exactly the same, talking about the same event. The good side of that is, if there is a good side, humanity comes out of it. We just have to start again, to live with the earth and not off of the earth.
So are most of them saying that Earth is suffering quite a bit right now? Yes. Okay. Could I say something slightly different?
Sure.
And I can go down into the archives as maybe being, again, another weirdo, maybe a real weirdo. But I believe, from what I'm seeing with my guidance, is that we are all on a lot of different escalators. And the escalators are on different paths, and we can be on a couple different paths. I plan on never really being on much of a fear path. I'm more of a preparer. So I prepare in case my lights go out, but I don't think about that, and I don't look for the fear. So when I tap into the earth, The earth feels like it's showing us some ways that we've done some wrong. But I believe in my heart earth is in pretty good shape, and I believe earth is now in at least 5D. And I believe we're going to just continue to come up. I believe that 3D stuff, it doesn't feel like it right now, but I believe that's going to fall away. So whether some people are going to stay on one part of the planet and the other person's going to go to a whole different one, really, I don't know, because my job is just to help people through whatever happens. So each one of us, I think, has a job, and I know very clearly what my job is. But my job is not I don't get all the fear stuff much. I really don't. So I don't know about the catastrophe stuff, but I do know from talking to about 1 million galactics and about 1 million of all the other races on the world, right, is that everybody's got their own agenda. Mm-hmm. I do think that. And so I am just planning on staying in love and holding that love frequency and doing the best I can with it. So that's what I think about that. So do I know what's going to happen? Is there going to be a big flash? All I know is I've had a couple of them myself. Good grief, the things I've seen during that time. So if somebody asks me if I've had the doggone event or the, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to say, yeah. And I can tell you all about it.
Yeah.
But it really changed me, and it really changed my frequency and my job, and it just everything just has changed from that. So do I think that's already happened for some people on Earth? Yeah, I do. I really do. So I'm sure you've heard that a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. And one of the things I've been told numerous times is that my job since 2012 was to point out to other people that they were higher vibration.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, because I could physically look at a picture of somebody or see them in real life and say, oh, you're an empath. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, I don't know what that is. And I'll say, and then I'll give them a whole list of things that was just generic to empaths. And they'll stare at me and say, oh, you just read me. It's perfect. That's exactly who I am. And I said, well, that's a lot of us. That wasn't just for you. That is something that people with this vibration, and this is where you should Google it. You should look it up, but don't get hung up on a lot of the different see a whole bunch of different explanations for it. Just don't go to the dictionary one where you are affected by other people's emotions or energies. It's a much broader spectrum. And then I walk away. Like literally, I would travel and bump into, and of course, a lot of them are empaths are in service jobs because we gravitate to jobs where we like helping people. Mm-hmm. So I come in contact with them, and it was like I'd tell them, leave the silver bullet and ride off in the sunset. And it was up to them to research it and go. But that was what I was told was that's kind of like my divination was to turn on other people.
I like it. I like it.
And we all have a place. And I don't know and that led me to having the podcast where I could talk to more people about it and have them look it up and then talk to people like you who has been put in a position of another job and talking to you about what your divination is and what you are supposed to do, what your piece of the puzzle is for us and what's coming.
Well, I'm so thankful that my guides give me easy ways to understand people in the very, very, very beginning of meeting them or reading them so that I can have a real clue into them so that I can put them at ease, and then all the bigger stuff will come out. So one of the very first things I do when I look at somebody is I find out who that person is. So a long time ago, my guides gave me the understanding is that I should figure out where did they come from? Are they meta? Did they come from the goddess realm? Did they come from a galaxy far, far, like really freaking far away, like the little kids do? Are they galactic? Are they Earth? Do they come from the celestial realm? Are they an angel? Do they come from the Earth? Are they just an Earth or inner Earth being? So once we have that established, that's ground zero. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It makes sense for me. But again,
it should make sense to everybody, though, because when I read somebody and I tell them that, people will say, you know what? I always knew I was an elf. You know what? I've got fairies in my house. They hide my stuff. So I will tell you 9 times out of 10, people know what I'm talking about right then. If you say, have you always had the longing to go back home? Have you never felt like part of this land? people will go, absolutely yes, from the moment I popped out, and that's a galactic right there. Okay, if you are talking to a meta, those people are movers and shakers of the world. They make giant proclamations, and they're usually true. They've got big, big personalities. Those are the people that are from the god and goddess realm, and there's not very many of those around here. I think, I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that they live in different parts of the world. But what I mostly meet here in the Pacific Northwest are angels and elementals. Now, angels are the people that are the most empathic, and they're always really helpful, and they always have a particular symbol on their body, which shows that their energy just gets sucked dry. And once I saw that symbol, I could learn to teach them how to take care of themselves, because empath skills can be a superpower, or it can take you down. It can make you sick. So it's great to identify who you are, but it's better to help them to survive it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So then what Spirit gave me recently is they gave me an understanding of how traumatized a person is by a set of numbers. So my guides are Mr. Tesla, Professor Einstein, Nostradamus. Those are my three main guides, plus a whole bunch of others, but those guys are always around. And in their infinite wisdom, they gave me a number system, because a lot of my stuff is numbers, a number system as to how to identify if a person is massively hurt and will get really offended. That's a 0 to a 1. If a person can be absolutely spoken to with the God's honest truth, as my mom would put it, that person is a 10. So somewhere in there at a 5, you got to hold them with your angel hands and love them as you help them. But a 1, I can't even tease. A 10, I can say, I see that your partner's sleeping with a mailman, something like that. You can go all the way to the end. You know what I'm saying? You can really tell them what's what, and they'll be able to take it right in. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I feel like I'm that guy that used to go, I'm being pulled over to the right side of the room. What was that guy's name? He'd always go, does that make sense?
Does that make sense to you? But if we don't question, we have to question it. We have to, when we get all this information and we speak it, it's like, or do you understand what I'm saying? And I do understand what you're saying. I understand to a point on how guides communicate with people. Mm-hmm. But I have yet to have that direct communication, that knowledge of direct communication with guides. When I do readings, I see a human relative come forward and stand beside the person who, as my understanding is, the in-between of the spirit guide and that person. Because that person, for them to communicate directly to your spirit guide, they'd have to have extremely high vibration, and that spirit guide would really have to dip down. So we have that volunteer come in to be that in between really quick, the hair on the back of your neck, the gut feeling, to pass on that information. So I don't seem to get my spirit guide direct communication until I have basically do a reading with cards or something to focus on, and that I get quicker, and I get it in long sentences and get a brighter understanding. So I perceive that's directly from a spirit guide, and I'm skipping the human person.
Yeah, I can tell you why that is. So you're just getting out of your head, and they can get in there. So when I read people, I can see, their angels, guides, beings of light, beloved, deceased, and ancestors. That's who I always call in. So every one of those guys is there for you to speak to, every one of them. They're just, and I couldn't read a card if my life depended on it. I couldn't. Okay. I couldn't. It's not my skill. I don't have the brain capacity. I have a memory issue, so I absolutely cannot remember all the tarot. And any of those cards, they don't make sense to me. I'll look at it and I'll go, oh, that's really cool. Look at all those swords, Yeah. But so instead, what they give me is they give me a movie, and I just watch the movie. So perfect. So if I'm reading you, I might say, okay, there's your mom. And the reason I know it's your mom is your mom's holding her hand on your head. And there's your grandmother. Her hand's right above your head. There's your grandpa. That's your mom's dad. You see what I'm saying? It's all set up in symbol for me. That's just me. And each one of us are a million times different.
When I see the human being standing beside the person, they give me hand signals.
Yes.
I've learned the different hand signals. Like, this is a decision you've got coming up. You're on path. You've got to let things go. You need to work on yourself, which I almost ignore now because everyone has to work on themselves. And then we move on from there. But and then I'll get an entire paragraph in my head, and I've learned to say it out loud. But with the cards, I literally took a card course, and I was reading for a friend, and it just dawned on me once. And I can't read cards with real complicated photos on them or pictures. And I have these Archangel Michael cards, which are very pretty, and they have a lot of words connected to them. But it's like, I'm too left brain. So I've got this other deck, which is just fractal colors. And that I get stuff on. So I was reading cards for my friend, and I just used business cards and flipped them over to the white side of the back. And the motion of flipping, actually, we just talked about this yesterday. It was the motion of flipping the card I got the information on. It wasn't looking at the card. It was the physical motion of moving the card over. And that's when it came. What's on the card was completely irrelevant, obviously, because this is a white side. But that focus and that movement, again, that's what you said, is that it was just taking that step back and allowing them to get into my head.
It's kind of similar to channeling. So before my heart and mind was working together and I needed to channel, I would ask my guide to step forward, Mr. Tesla. He and I were married in another lifetime, not the Tesla lifetime, but a different lifetime. So he would take me dancing. So I would put my brain, whatever side of that brain that is, way over to the left. And then I would allow the spirit to come in, either into my body or stand in front of me and speak, however it goes, because I do both. But now my heart-mind works together, and I just shut up, and they'll come through. And that's a better way of healing, too, I've found, is that the ability of healing is way higher if you could put your heart and your mind together, because the mind is becoming old news, And that's, of course, how once we can quiet our mind, good grief, you can do anything, because the mind is, needed for a few things. But in the future, heart, mind, of course, right?
Yeah. We were talking to Mari Beckman. It's Mari Beckman. So when you look her up on her website, maribeckman.com, it's Mari Beckman.com. She's a psychic medium, energetic healer, radio host, and an author, and has a book in a bag. So we're going to have to wait for that one to come out. So we're going to get going on that. One of the things you say you work directly with is the Archangel Metatron. Now, for me, he's like the guy who opens my third eye. And I did a whole bunch of meditation once and finally got my third eye to open, and I was flying over villages in the UK with cobblestone streets that I landed on. I looked into windows. It was the most bizarre. I saw a beautiful woman wearing a tricorn hat, those three-peaked, like 18th century hats. And she was tall and almost dressed as a man, just a beautiful, strong woman. And I saw all these other things and symbols, like Sanskrit symbols. And I got up and I wrote them all down. And it was like fascinating. And sure enough, it was a couple of years later that lady in the tricorn hat ended up being one of my spirit guides. But really, really interesting because they didn't tell a lot of people about that, what she looked like. And then I had a reading, and she said, "Oh, you have a spirit guide. She can come from the water. She used to be, of Earth, and this is what she looks like." And I said, "Oh crap, I know her. I've met her before." But that was fascinating to me. Like, to pick a character out of the blue. I built basically what looked like somebody who was from the Revolutionary War, but a woman in that outfit. And to have that psychic describe exactly who I saw as a spirit guide, that was fascinating. So she came through eventually. But when you connect with Metatron, what is it he brings to the table for you?
It's interesting because some of that information is older. Those are my guides that I worked with prior to the set I have now. And what they tell me is they never really go away. If you're associated, this is what they tell me about me. So I kind of think this is true with others, but I don't know. I can only speak for myself, is that my original guides are still out there. So Holy Mary, of course, she's always going to be there for me. Also, I worked with the person who developed the Red Cross. I also worked with so many people in the past that I just don't see anymore. Ra and Apollo and Archangel Metatron kind of just holds the energy. But the guides that I speak to now are the three that I told you about. Mm-hmm. I work with the Morrigan. I work with Kernunos, also with Marie Laveau. These are all health guides. Those are health guides, some of them. Mm-hmm. And then I work with Michael the Archangel, other angels. I work with particularly my Seraphim family. I work with the Arcturians, and I have certain Arcturians I work with. I work with Commander Ashtar and Syrians and Avians, other galactic guides, and then also people of the earth. So my absolute favorite is got to be Saint Germain all day. I love him so much. He's so special to me. Martin Luther King, just so many beings. So, and they all kind of come in for a certain reason. So one guide I work with, Chief South, he comes in if it's a person is a Native American, or he comes in for me to point something out. So it depends on kind of like Marie Laveau is a lot about health for people. She was a nurse, of course, and she's known for voodoo and all that, but she shows me health stuff. So it kind of just depends on what they want me to do as to why they're there, if that makes sense. And my main three, Nostradamus is all about information. Mr. Tesla, again, my husband, he's the one I trust over anybody in the world, except maybe Saint Germain. And then, Professor Einstein just basically laughs at me. So basically I have a lot of people. Those three guys are extremely smart. What they have anything to do with me at all, I have no idea. I'm just your basic human, but they tell me they love me from my heart. So I guess that's why.
That's really interesting. When you tap in and what was it, the chief, the First Nations, the American?
Oh, Chief Indian? South. Yeah, he is the Holy One that Seattle was named after. Okay,
could you describe him?
Sure.
But describe him
as he looks. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so the way I met the Holy One is I was standing at my dad's house, and this is after my dad passed away, and I knew a woman who has become a friend of mine, and she needed to know what to do with some sacred land that she and her family lived on. She is a Native American herself. And I was standing on my dad's porch waiting for her to call me, and I could see this being moving out in the trees. And he was dressed in gray pants and a gray work shirt. He had longer hair, kind of graying hair, and had very kind eyes. And so when my friend called me, now she's my friend, of course, I love her so much. Her name's Lori. When we set the circle up, the Holy One walked in, and it turned out to be Chief South. I'd never seen him before in my life. And it turns out there are pictures of him dressed in a gray shirt and gray pants. I didn't know. She is his relative. Now, how do you like that? So now he comes through every once in a while. If I need to do some sort of ceremony with somebody, he and other medicine men and women and holy ones will come through. So it's an awesome story, and I just love him. He feels like dad to me. He's very dad-like, just like Jesus Christ is like that too. He's very dad-like to me.
And
Mr. Tesla is my husband for sure. And many, 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 many psychics have seen that.
That's fascinating. The reason I asked you what he looked like, because in June, I was doing some readings. We call them stand-up readings, where I'm standing looking at somebody and relatives come through. And it was in June. I was talking to people from Central America, South America, and American Indian. And about a car length behind them, this being came through that was about 7 feet tall, and it was like native looking. Mm-hmm. But kind of hair in a headband, and very strong, with a great big Roman nose, and very powerful, very young, virile looking guy. That's why I asked. Maybe that's who this was, but it's not. It's a different being, because I have no idea who these guys are. These things that are now standing behind people I'm doing readings for, and it's not happening to everybody. But when it does happen, they're friggin' interesting. It was at the time, it was like, what the hell is this?
And when that happens, I just say, thank you, Holy Ones, because when they stand behind a person like that in my readings, that means that's that person's person. So if you're reading 30 people at a time, it's very helpful when the Holy Ones stand behind that person. then you don't have to worry. But now I have my dad and mom are on the other side. My dad's my gatekeeper. So if I'm doing an event where I'm reading a lot of people, like a platform mediumship or something, my dad will let people in one at a time so that my physical body doesn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know where my dad is in the great scheme of things. He's crossed over. My mother is the one that's always behind my left shoulder here.
Awesome.
I remember accidentally bringing a ghost home from a paranormal investigation because I was tired and it was a long drive, and I forgot to clear myself when I left. And I got home and he was standing at the foot of my bed. And I did what any big tough guy would do, is, put your sheets over your head, covers over the head, and then peek again. And go, crap, he's still there. So, but he had the most terrified look on his face, and he was looking over my left shoulder. He wasn't looking at me. He was like, he's totally ignoring me, but standing at the foot of my bed with this terrified look. And I could just imagine my mother just railing on him like,
sure,
what are you doing here? And then we moved him out. Skeeter Wellhouse, we moved him out the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And she explained on what happened. And we identified the guy, actually, or identified him. Somebody else had seen them. He'd seen this guy 20 years earlier when she was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And she described exactly the same guy that I had a tag along home with me. But yeah, so I know my mother's there, and she's kind of maybe she's my gatekeeper. I don't know, but she's around. And my guides, I don't know. I did have a regression thing again through Skeeter, and I kind of went back to who my higher self was, and I was my higher self. But then again, my primary spirit guide was also me, as an ET. And I like, hold on. So this guy that's been described as my primary spirit guide that looks like he's from Egypt 30,000 years ago is really not from here. And yeah, that's right. You were told that when you first had that pointed out to you, that he wasn't terrestrial. And it didn't dawn on me that meant he was from somewhere else, or he had never lived on Earth. But yeah, that was the weirdest thing, is when you find out that this guy you think, that I call Matthew because he didn't have a name, that was my spirit guide, that actually is me, who is my highest self. It's like that circle, that circle that just keeps going.
Yes, those are those pieces of information that make you have to go sit down and, have some seltzer or something,
Oh yeah, kind of
when you recognize that there's so much more that we don't know, but I believe that it is coming in the next short while. I mean, the guides will always tell you soon, soul, it'll come soon. But I really do believe it's getting close, because a lot of the signs are there. Soon,
soul, but on whose timeline? On
exactly.
Human timeline, which is linear and doesn't really count.
Right.
Or the flat timeline where my mother, who's standing behind me here, is still going to her favorite nightclub when she was 25, exactly at the same time she's sipping a glass of wine on the porch of wherever, and being in every place she'd ever loved at the exact same time. So
yes, because it's all happening in the exact same, it's all happening at once. It really is. And isn't that a head scratcher?
I know. It's like, good Lord, Mary.
But it makes you excited to get up for the next day, though, I just find myself waking up, and before I think, oh, gosh, boy, do I sure hurt, I think to myself, I am so thankful. And then I start naming off what are the things I'm thankful for, and that's how you raise your energy, I think.
You're thankful for the first breath you remember to take that morning.
Exactly.
I've been breathing all night, and I still am. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have thanked you more if you had cleaned the house while I was sleeping, but thank you anyway.
Exactly.
So, hey, do you ever get, this is a weird question, well, so it's the weird show. Do you ever get dead people bothering you for help?
Well, remember back when I was saying everybody has an agenda? Was that you I was talking to a moment ago?
Yeah,
okay.
That was me.
Yeah. So sometimes folks, again, like you were saying, will follow you home, or you'll see somebody on somebody, or they'll come by for a chat or whatever. And absolutely, yes. And they, it's good to remember that we are able to help most, not everybody. If people don't want to go into a newer, funner dimension, that's cool with me. But you can point out how you can make things better. And Yeah, so I sure do. I've seen we've certainly had, when my husband and I got our house, we went through and I made sure that it wasn't, full of all kinds of stuff. And then a couple weeks in, of course, I was lying in bed and I looked up and there was a little girl. And my husband regularly brings stuff home with him. He's got a beautiful heart and they'll follow him home. And yeah, that does happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. Does he notice it when he brings them home, or is that something you notice?
He's beginning to, yeah. He'll say, "Do you think there's anybody in here with us?" And he's had some experiences where he's seen orbs in daylight. And he's beginning to just, I'd say he's really getting quite awakened. So when I first met him, probably not quite so much, even though he always wondered about this kind of stuff. And then he was always very skeptical. And I'm fairly skeptical. I'm a prove it person. I like to make sure that if I'm going to tell you, you've got this thing happening, I need to prove it in 8 ways. I think maybe that's why I have all those science people with me, because they do know I'm like that, Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's beginning to have all kinds of crazy stuff happen to him, and now he knows lots of people in this business, and it doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
Well, that's the key thing, is when you're a kid growing up with this stuff, a lot of people would just keep their mouth shut because they didn't want to be seen as crazy. Or a friend of mine, Sharon Day, grew up in a very haunted house. It was a Civil War battle hospital for both sides as the battle moved across the farm. She grew up in her bedroom still had the plank floors with bloodstains on them, and she thought everyone could see the soldiers in the house, and but nobody talked to them, so she didn't. Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, you're the only one who sees the soldiers in the house. Mm-hmm. And she developed into quite a seer, we'll call it an intuitive. But she kept that quiet because, well, I see them, but no one else is saying anything, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut about this. And a lot of people grow up that way, or they'll have an experience, whether, again, Bigfoot or a UFO or perceived alien or an ET of some sort shows up, and it leaves and they walk out of their house or walk into the kitchen to see their parents, and it's like, oh, crap, you're not going to believe this, so don't say anything. But, I saw shadows when I was a kid in my bedroom. I saw full-on dead people, like I would be looking at somebody three-dimensionally standing in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I would just file that away as, well, that was kind of weird. I was told later that guy had died, and, he couldn't have. He must have had internal injuries because he looked fine when I was talking to him. Or not talking to him, but seeing him. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, we go back over and go, oh, crap, there's something going on here. Am I crazy?
Yeah. Well, have you noticed, I think it was in 2019, practically January 1st, 2019, it was all aliens all day. I mean, if you look on social media and, everywhere, it was like, this is the new movie and it's about galactics, it's a new movie about it just really came out. And then now this, more disclosure and people talking in the Gaia TV and all that. I think that's fascinating because they're some of my favorite people.
Yeah, it's here's something that I'm going to put out. I'm going to say out loud is that I've talked to 3 intuitives. It's very, very connected psychics. 2 of which have had ET contact ever since they were little. Mm-hmm. One tells me about a kind of the end of, I shouldn't say end of times, an event where reptilian beings are going to show up here and take a bunch of us. And there's nothing we can do about it, but they're going to take more of the lower vibration ones. Well, not all of them, but a good chunk of the lower vibration humans off planet. Oh, I'm just having a odd breathe. Okay. My breathing just went wonky. And I was talking to her about this, and gets into a lot more detail, which was quite upsetting. And I talked to Skeeter Wellhouse, another friend, a friend of ours. We started mentioning about reptilians, and I said, hey, have you heard this from anybody? And she said, oh my God, who did you hear that from? Because that's what I've been told too. Mm-hmm. And then I was talking to another fellow who had an experience where he was actually given a date of this happening. And we started discussing, well, this is why there's no disclosure, because the government has known about this event coming with their contact with ETs over X amount of years, 50, 60 years. They knew something like this would be coming. And that would be part of the disclosure. And that would have just, people would be jumping off bridges and stuff because you don't want to be taken up by the reptilians. And the black reptilians, there's a whole whack of reptilians, but these ones are primarily the ones who run the meat market, so to speak. So that was really, that was, a week of me not sleeping well. And, you start talking about, and I want to get back to, before we scare all the children away, the elemental beings that we have in the Pacific Northwest here. My youngest daughter is, I've been told numerous people, she's fairy realm. And my oldest daughter is an empath who's like friggin' through the roof. But people like them, they're not going to be taken. If a reptilian shows up to take my youngest daughter, the fairies are going to step in and say, nah, she's coming with us. Or you got to leave her alone. So they're not touching the people that are of that background. The mixes, the hybrids, and the higher vibration people, because those people are supposed to stay and get the world back up and running and going again. But anyway, I try to throw that out and see how that fits into anything you've heard.
Gosh, well, what I do notice is I notice that I can see whatever new earth is. I've had dreams. I can see it when I concentrate on it. I've kind of flown over it in some visions. So I know something is up. Do I believe that we are actually going to get in the plane and leave? I don't know. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. People keep trying to get a hold of me here. I don't know if you're picking up on that, but I'm sorry if it is. My phone's just been blowing up. So what I see is a separation, certainly. And I guess, there are some people that aren't going to awaken. I think that's probably true. So whether or not they still continue their 3D existence, I don't know where that's going to be. That's not on my, my pay grade isn't high enough. I'm not sure why. I don't know that. I've dreamed about leaving the planet and going home from the time I was a little tiny kid. And everybody tells me that that's probably not going to happen, that I'm always going to be a helper. So I don't believe I'm going to turn out to be reptile food. I don't believe that. I just don't know. I've not seen that. That's not on my escalator.
You're not.
You know what I mean?
You aren't going to be. It's the lower. It's somebody not only who hasn't awakened, but it's a lower thing. And we were told the 4 countries that this was going to happen in. And there'd be missing people, and the coronavirus was a part of the beginning of the call, and all this other stuff, and what the 3 countries were. And one of them was Australia, which we were fascinated. It's like, well, there's nobody living in Australia. And I said, yeah, but if you're reptilian, where would you rather have a base when it's 110 degrees all year round? And I said, well, yeah, but the place is on fire. And they said, yeah, because they're pushing populations away from where they're going to be. It's like, holy crap.
Oh, see, I get different information about that. So here's the deal. I also think that there's a lot of clearing going on so that new stuff is going to happen. I don't know. I can't get on the fear bus. I never will. Will. I'm going to be on the positive bus, and I'm going to help people get better. So it's just not on my video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which is actually which again, we fall back to, what is your job?
Right.
Your job is to help people flip the switch.
Because the thing is I would like to go back to my home planet where people don't hurt each other, and there's not lying, and people take care of the environment, and pets aren't suffering, and little kids aren't suffering, I'd like to go back to where I came from. Thank you very much. But at this moment, I stuck myself on Earth a long time ago. My little hand was up in the air saying, I'll go. Oh, sure. Why not? And evidently, I'll take a whole bunch of people with me on the inside. I don't know what that's all about, but at any rate, I'm just gonna keep positive, and I think that you can get your vibe up pretty dang high. You really can work with that. So if there's anybody out there wondering if they're going to be reptile food, good grief, there's a lot of ways to get your vibration up. I get on the board with that.
Yeah, get going. And I think it's one of those things where there's enough people out there pointing this out, not that part of it, but pointing out that, yeah, you are of somebody who can actually change. We can change. We can enlighten ourselves. We can raise that vibration. It's out there. It's about 15 years ago when this whole, oh my God, the ghosts are in my house, and we had television shows coming on. People started watching it and buying into the fact that, because I saw ghosts when I was a kid, maybe it's not that weird if I say it out loud now. So we went through that time of, ghosts, and then there's life on the other side, and then what is the other side, and crossing over and things. And we opened our mind up to that. Then we, like you say, we went through that, that whole ET thing. And we're starting to open our minds up for that. 10 years ago, the Ancient Aliens things came out. And, I sat down with Eric Von Daniken and interviewed him. And it's funny, he's written 50 books, and he's never seen a UFO.
Oh, my gosh. I
see UFOs.
I do, too.
I've been up to Sedona watching them with Melinda Leslie, night vision, and I kept going through my head is, okay, I just left Eric Von Daniken, and he's heading back to Europe. And I was like, frig, buddy, come here. If you want to see a UFO, come up here.
Oh, yeah, gosh, there's tons up here.
Place.
Absolutely.
The Pacific Northwest is packed with them.
We're hot.
I don't know who's flying them. I just say I know they're unidentified. They're flying in their objects, and they're flying in groups and doing zigzags and flying all over the place and hitting, flashing them with your little laser beam and your handheld laser pointer, and they're getting 10 times brighter, and then they dim back down again and take off. It's like, okay, somebody can't say there aren't UFOs, because I'm looking at the friggin' things right now. And, sure, okay, maybe there are government. Who knows? I talked to Bob Lazar. He claims he worked at a place called S4 doing reverse engineering on him. It's like, and this is my police brain kicking in as I'm interviewing him. I'm talking to him. I know he's not lying.
Yes.
I can look at him and go, yeah, you're not lying. You did reverse engineer a UFO that was found in an archaeological dig that, the stuff around it was 10,000 years old. Damn. So what's going on now? Who knows? But
well, one thing
that are flying around here, are we flying them, or are they flying them, or are we both flying them?
I think we're both flying them, but I just want to tell you, but I know that we're getting somewhat close. I don't want to miss telling you this. So I have a dear friend that takes some pretty spectacular pictures of every one of the realms. So she can come inside a person's house or go out, take a picture of the bushes, the trees, the spaceships, the sky, the everything. And in those pictures are all of us and all of them. So if you ever want to see some pretty interesting stuff, you can look at her photos and see who is with you at all times. They're all here. So some of those plasma ships, where it's just one person in the plasma ship, which is Merkaba ship, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can get an armed Merkaba ship, so why can't they?
What does the photographs look like? Because I had a photo taken. It looked like a Polaroid. I put my hand on this metal thing, and it took a picture. And I remember I was telling you, the psychic told me my spirit guide had never been terrestrial. I had these pictures taken, and I had it on a desk and a counter, and an ET experiencer shaman psychic fellow, Derek White Skycloud, walked by, and he looked at it and said, "Oh, your spirit guides are ETs." And he walked away and went, "What the heck? What?"
Well, they look like
a bunch of beings.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
they're in the room you're sitting in. They're in your, they can be reflected in everything. So they look like what you think they might look like. And so elementals look like elementals, and angels look like angels, and fairies look like fairies, and they're in those photos. So I will give you her name so that you can interview her. She's pretty amazing. But I would just tell you, they are absolutely everywhere. So if you think you're going to sleep to lay down in your bed by yourself at night, you're not. So there you go. But, you just kind of have to be discerning and go through your own heart. So if you see a being in front of you, you should be looking at their heart field. Does that being have a heart field, or does it have, everybody has an agenda, right? What's their agenda? Are they there to teach you something? Are they there to point something out? Do they have a message? What is it? If they don't have any of that, I'm going to exit them out of the matrix. You know what I'm saying? Out the door you go. So it's up to us to begin to learn to feel through our heart and understand, what do people want? What do all these beings want? I mean, I see Sasquatch myself, and some of them are guides, Sasquatches that you see through your third eye. And I had one come into a few visions and a few readings. And I just kept wondering if that person, are you a guide of mine? Let me see your heart field. That's all you need to do. So I don't really know how this is all going to turn out, but my goodness, what a ride. And aren't we happy we're here to see it? We heard about this so many years ago that something was going to happen. We could feel something was going to happen. And by golly, it's happening. We can demonstrate it all the time now. I remember teaching classes years ago, and I'd say, so does anybody feel that energy? And one person would put their hand up. Now I teach classes and everybody puts their hand up. Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your head? Where do you feel it? How are you doing? Are you losing your memory? What's going on? That kind of thing. And everybody knows that this is happening. It's like the elephant in the middle of the room that nobody talks about. It is happening. The human being is changing.
It is. We are talking to Mari Beckman. Please go to her website. It's kind of cool. You can actually get a reading through there, too. You can book online. MariBeckman.com. It's MARI Beckman.com. Mari, you were talking about looking at their heart and seeing their heart. What is it I want to see when I ask to see? Just that the feeling is there, that they are honorable and that they have a heart and that they want the best, If I get a negative feeling through my clear feelers and I don't I make mistakes all the time. The other night I got up and everything was dark in our house, and all I could see in front of me was a big giant tail. And I was asleep practically, and I exited that out the door. That turned out to be a dragon. That was my dragon. I exited my own dragon. Now that's a mistake. But I have seen things stand in front of me like reptilians when there was more of them on the earth. I have seen reptilians, and I believe there are less around than there used to be. Now, has somebody in the government made some deals? Well, that wouldn't be the first time, would it? No.
But I also do believe that there are many races that are working for the good of the planet. The Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Sirians, the Andromedans. There's many, the Mantis beings, all kinds of beings out there that are working for our best interest. So, really, is there some sort of a deal that the government has made where we're going to be food? I don't know. That's not on my timeline. But I do know that there are a lot of beings that are trying to assist us. We're kind of the biggest show in the galaxy and beyond right now.
Yeah, that whole thing with the government making deals, it wasn't up to them. It was up to Creator. When the reptilian first showed up in the Garden of Eden. And they said, you know what, if you guys all have one rule. You just have one rule. One rule. Just follow it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's it. That's all you have to do. And I guess we screwed up. Some of us. So we'll see. And again, that's that whole other, again, I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people and kind of filtering it through other conversations and thinking, we'll see how this turns out.
Absolutely. We sure will.
I was also told this was supposed to happen back in 1960, but there was a change of consciousness then. So, we were starting to live again with the earth as opposed to living off of it, like pulling things out of it and living there. The earth is very resilient. There's, when you say there's ET helping us take care of the earth, one of the things that I heard, and throw this out here to your guys, that there's an ET race that actually created a technology, whether it's brought in a bacteria or something that eats the radiation released from Fukushima and all those places, and 3 Mile Island, and is actually cleaning up the radiation. Mm-hmm. So that sounded like a good thing. And I know that they didn't want us blowing each other up back in the 1960s and 70s when they were interfering with what we were doing over, or what the battles and stuff were over in Vietnam, as we were in kind of encroaching into China, which would have set off a whole bunch of other issues. And the ETs were actually pushing the U.S. gunboats off the river, chasing them out to the river, because they didn't want that to happen. So they are actively trying to step in and say, look, dummies, you're gonna screw everything up if you keep on the path you're going on. And I think this is the positive, is the people like you who have awakened to realize that you have a job. And it's just, making sure that other people have that that time to awaken themselves, and especially with your medical intuitivism. Intuitivism, is that a word? It is now, because I've said it out loud, and it's a recording. So it is. Intuitivism is a word now. So you have that, and the healing is important. And when you heal somebody, no matter who they are, if they believe you're healing them, and they understand that, oh my God, I had a psychic medium heal me. I had a healer, an energy healer. Therefore, this must be real. Well, all of a sudden, they've gone up in vibration themselves.
Hopefully, yeah. And the thing is if they have the same intention that the person that's doing the healing does, and it is their time, and all the planets in a row, absolutely, that healing is going to happen. Sometimes that'll be the last healing they need. Sometimes they'll get a tick of a healing. Sometimes they'll get a lot of a healing. There needs to be a lot of things in place. Maybe we're just the next rung on the ladder. Everybody's completely different. And, sometimes you have things in your subconscious that keeps you from healing. I have a friend that you should talk to about that. He's a master of releasing things out of the subconscious. Sometimes maybe you have past life things or issues in the family and way back in the lineage. And many things need to happen before that trip, the trip switch goes where the healing occurs. But what I would tell people is, my goodness, instead of watching cat videos or somebody on YouTube singing, watch all the awesome content on healing on YouTube. Get on these podcasts and listen to people that are actually doing the work, and really listen, because everybody's got a piece. Each one of us has a key. We are here for, I'd say for doggone reason, right? If we've made it this far in 2020, we are here because we have a key. Not every healer is the same, because you might be doing a modality, but pretty soon you'll get to a point where, oh my goodness, you're actually rocking some awesome healing thing of your own, and you can really help people, right? So that can be said for a lot of folks. Are they going to be people like you that bring people together so that we can all tune in and find out what's going on? I mean, there's so many ways we are of value right now in 2020. So I would say, if you want to get out there and heal, now's the time. Do it, do it, do it.
And just understand that it's a thought process. It's not, take some training. There are people out there who show you how to do it properly. And if you have that ability to tune in, and you actually have the drive to do it, the actual intent to be a positive being and heal, it will work. It's not something. It's kind of like learning tarot. My understanding, because I can't my dyslexia. Because I can't memorize a bunch of cards, and anybody can do tarot because it's written. What you're flipping is written down. What the reason you flip these cards over is kind of out of your hands, but now that the card's flipped, you just read it, and this is what it means. But as a healer, if you can. Once you get your mind around this is real, this is how it works, and through meditation, I can raise my vibration to get this done. All those belief systems have to kick in. You have to believe they exist, and you'll be able to do it. It's just getting that into your head where you can 100% believe you can do this, and this is the result of what I've practiced and what I am doing. Again, it's intent and belief. It's that overcoming the disbelief that anyone can do this.
And so then I would go one tick further, because now it's 2020 and we're engaging our heart mind together. If you understand that the body and that life basically is a video game, how would you get in the body to make changes? And that's the healer of the future. So whatever you can think up, any way you can get in the body and make a little video game happen. Yep, that's healing right there.
That is cool. We are talking to Mari Beckman. Mari, you have a couple of things. I'm looking at my fancy piece of paper here, my big notepad. You are on this Saturday on KKNW, 1150 AM in Seattle. And what's the name of your show, the show you're going to be on?
They are having me on the Jupiter Rising show. It's an awesome astrology show where I first started out. I was the co-host on that show. And the person who has been doing that show for, oh my gosh, years and years, Eileen Grimes, and her co-host now is Doug Johnston. So they are having me, and we're going to be talking about astrology and metaphysics. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. It's 11:50 a.m. KKNW.
And what time are you going to be on?
That's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
10 a.m. Pacific. Now, remember, everybody, that you can find that show after it's aired, too. Just go on the internet and Google 1150kknw.com. Again, 1150kkw.com. Mary's going to be on there at 11 a.m. on Saturday coming up.
10. It's 10.
Sorry, 10. So the time difference, there is none. The we're Northwest, for God's sakes. So 10 a.m. and I think I was going with the 11:50. 11:50 a.m.
Yeah, that's all right.
There you go. KKNW. And again, you can find that online after the show is over. You're also going to be in the Ides of March, or March 14th, 15th, the Galactic Fair in Lacey, Washington. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you are interested in things like this, please, if you drop into the Galactic Fair in Lacey, Washington, Mary's going to be there. And then she and I are going to be at the Oregon. Oh, you hope you're going to be there, yeah.
Well, I hope so. I'm standing here thinking, I wonder if I sent my money in, but I've been there for the last few years, so hopefully he'll slide me in at the last minute. Anyway, please come. It's awesome if I'm there or not. He has James Redfield and Eric Rains and all kinds of awesome people, and that's more of kind of like a little thing that you come in and listen all day to incredible speakers, and there are vendors there, and I am there to absorb the good mojo that's happening all day. Perfect. For sure.
Now, you're not sure yet if you're going to the Oregon Ghost Conference, or was it?
No, I absolutely am. Yeah, I'm a speaker. I'm going to be teaching about, catching up with your guides, hooking up with your guides and people in all realms. So I'll be at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the main stage as a speaker there, and I'll be a vendor there too.
Perfect. And I hopefully, when I hear back from them, I should be there again this year, too. That's the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, Oregon, March 27th to March 29th, 2020. And if you, again, with us Pacific Northwest people, you've got to get out here. And there's a lot of things going on. A lot of, from Port Gamble Ghost Conferences, the Oregon Ghost Conference, to McMinnville UFO Conference. I think it's in May. And then if you ever been, have you ever been down to the Portland, any of the McMiniman properties?
No, I would like to. We just got a McMinimans in Tacoma. Little old Tacoma just got one, but I haven't been to any of those.
But when you say little old Tacoma, because that family, they buy these really old buildings and turn them into very, very cool places. I stayed out in a place called The Lodge in, I think it was Spruce Valley or Spruce something in Oregon. And it was an old, Messianic lodge. And it was the creepiest place I stayed in for a long time. And I've stayed in some pretty haunted places. But, yeah, that was a cool place. And they fixed them all up, and they're full of local artwork. And, they're a lot of fun. And, I was going to ask you, have you ever been to the ECETI Ranch?
I have a couple times, and I was so incredibly lucky to be able to interview James Gilliland on my very first radio show. My radio and podcasting is called Metaphysical Meltdown, so you guys can find that on YouTube. But I was there at the ECETI in a group a couple times. It's not too far from here. Of course, if you don't go the wrong way like I did, it was actually the second time I totally got lost. But we were there for a reason, I guess, going up that mountain in the snow. But you can see so much stuff, and there's such nice people there. And James is just such a good man. So if anybody hasn't been to the ECETI, please go. It's, what is it called? Enlightened Contact Extraterrestrial. What's the I? I can't remember. Intelligence.
Intelligence, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I have yet to be there. I've been asked, my friends Seth and Brian, I've met her. Oh, so she's the one I was driving down to Oregon to visit one of my motorcycle in the fires. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she's been up there a couple of times, and we're trying to set up where we can both go and go up and see what there is to see up there. But that's one of my paranormal bucket lists that I want to deal with. And get that going. And speaking of paranormal bucket list, that's why my Patreon account. If you like the content of these podcasts, you can donate $3 a month on Patreon, and it goes into and those people get a psychic reading draw once a month, or a past life regression, or astrological chart. But if I get up to 2,222 people, once a month I draw a trip for two. And it will be to places like the ECETI Ranch, or if you like ghosts, we'll book a couple of days on the Queen Mary and do a paranormal investigation with a local team, and we'll film it as a documentary. I have a documentary film crew who's volunteered to come out and do this. So that's what you get when you donate your $3 a month, when we get up to that 2,222 mark anyway. Until then, I can't afford to send you on a trip. So, and the reason I want to do that is I want to go too. Mm-hmm. Yes. I want to go back to battlefield like Gettysburg, or I want to go to the UFO conference in Phoenix, and take a couple with me and give them VIP treatment, get them all the books, get them on the thing, and take them up to Sedona to watch UFOs. Sure. Heck, I should come down and see UFOs with you guys, or go to the ECETI Ranch and see them. For goodness' sake.
Absolutely, anytime. Yep. Yeah. Because I would like to go this year in April. I'm going to go to Glastonbury to stand at the tour and look up and see if I can see anything. So I'm pretty excited to get to go see that. And go to Stonehenge. Fun. Yeah.
Stonehenge. Don't lean up against it and knock them over, because I saw Mr. Bean do that. It's embarrassing. And Metaphysical Meltdown, I have subscribed to your channel. Please, if you're interested in these type of conversations, go to Metaphysical Meltdown on YouTube. Just go to the Google net, find it there, and you'll see a series of Mari Beckman's interviews with people like you and I like to talk to. So all us woo-woo people.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you, Mari. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you down at the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, Oregon at the last weekend of March.
Sounds good. I'll come up and give you a hug. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Watching you while you sleep all
alone. All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey. Let's be careful out there. Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing as they go. What are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Because somebody hide, somebody better. Through the hail
know.